let us कहते हैं begin with. First, I'll give you one question, and I'll also discuss issues with answer writing today. Okay. What are the mistakes that you can avoid in your next test? Okay. And some suggestions, okay, for answer writing. So first question, for this I will not give you 8 or 9 minutes, you just have to think. Okay, so I'll give you 4 minutes only. Examine the relevance of Parsonian. In fact, not this. Let me give you this question today. Okay. Sociology emerged in Europe and flourished to begin with on social reformist orientation in the USA. Comment. 150 words. That means 10 marks. 2013. We will also do all those questions which we skipped when we were studying unit 1 2, because I told you you will be able to solve them only after some point of time. Okay, विशाल को बनाने वाले तो तुम्हें पता ही है कौन होते हैं, जिनको सोशियोलॉजी नहीं आती, जिनको जॉब चाहिए महीने महीने की. Sociology emerged in Europe and flourished to begin with on social reformist orientation in the USA. Comment. I want to see what structure you are going to follow. Ten marks का है ये. Okay. So, see, first of all, when there is any issue from technical end, वीडियो का कोई इश्यू होता है, ऑडियो वाला, डोंट +1 एवरी टाइम. ये जो +1 होता है, +1, एक ने बोल दिया ठीक है, दूसरा +1 करे ना करे डजंट मैटर, वो रिजॉल्व हो जाएगा. ओके. टेक्निकल टीम, हर आदमी को सोना होता है यार, उसकी भी एक जिंदगी होती है. ठीक है, रात को चले गया वो 8 बजे काम करके अपना, कैसे करेगा घर से, अगला दिन का टाइम चाहिए ही होगा उसको. एंड वीडियो एडिटिंग टेक्स लॉट ऑफ टाइम, because it is not just editing, we have to upload the video on a specific server. Okay, video cipher, it takes a lot of time, at least 3 hours it takes. Okay, so that is not a personal trouble, it's a public issue. Okay, so it is not one individual at the fault. So difference hota hai, there is a difference between democracy and mobocracy. Mob do not become mob, bheed. Okay, so sociology emerged in Europe and flourished to begin with on social reformist orientation in the USA. Very simple. First, of course, we have to define how sociology emerged in Europe. Okay. Flourished, of course, that means flourished means it grew. Okay. To begin with, on social reformist orientation in USA. Basically, it is asking European versus American sociology. European versus American sociology. European, as we know very well, emerged as a consequence of intellectual changes that were happening in Europe. Okay. As we know, Renaissance, Enlightenment, Scientific Revolution, French Revolution, Industrial Revolution, these led to European sociology. European sociology was largely a response to the intellectual changes. Okay. Sociology emerged in Europe. Basically, European sociology emerged in Europe. Okay. In response to intellectual changes, and the European sociology was mainly dealing with theoretical orientations. It had developed theories to explain these changes. Okay, Durkheim had developed theories on collective consciousness, degree of cohesion, okay, that was loosening, weakening. Karl Marx, Weber, okay, all these had developed orientations, theoretical, large scale. Okay. On the other hand, American sociology, emerged in the context of what? American sociology did not have this context. Renaissance, scientific revolution, enlightenment, French revolution, industrial revolution. इसका अमेरिकन सोशोलॉजी का कॉन्टेक्स्ट ही अलग था. Okay. American sociology mainly developed as a response to, in response to what? Social issues like migration, social issues. Okay, and this was social changes. And social changes not over a period of 1 or 2 years, or not within a year, social change over a large scale period. Okay, from 1300 to 1700. Okay, 400 years. And this was more about small scale social issues within Golden Triangle, Chicago, Boston, Washington. Okay, social issues within Golden Triangle. That was migration, crime rate, homelessness, okay, poverty. And then came American sociology. So बहुत अलग है. And American sociology developed to mitigate these issues, not to study them theoretically, but to mitigate. इसको address करने के लिए बना. Okay. And European sociology developed to study all those changes theoretically and to see the direction in which society is going. Okay. Although Marx is an exception. See, Marx, as you know, he says the point of philosophy has so far been to interpret the world, but it is actually to change the world. Largely, the main objective of philosophy should be to change the world, not to interpret the world. People have interpreted the direction, कहाँ हम जा रहे हैं, ये वो सब. Let us change it. So this is known as action theory. He was actually an action theorist also. Okay. So he actually worked on activism. So the idea of activism is actually coming from Marx. But whatever he said was also theoretical, in the sense he did not really talk about how communism can come. He said it is structurally inevitable. He was analyzing these things in a structural fashion. Okay. And Lenin actually gave spirit to the writings of Marx, and he talked about how revolution can come, forming a political party, vanguard party. Okay. So this was all you had to explain. सिंपल था ये क्वेश्चन, वेरी ओके. यूएस प्रैग्मेटिक, हाँ यूएस प्रैग्मेटिक अप्रोच है, एम्पिरिकल अप्रोच है. ओके, फील्ड स्टडी पे बेस्ड है, इंटरैक्शनिस्ट अप्रोच है. इन यूएसए सी, लेट मी राइट इट लाइक दिस, यूरोप, अमेरिका. You know the context, very different. Context 1, context 2, in which these sociologies developed. Europe, large scale theoretical orientation, which we also call as grand theory. This was small scale empirical and pragmatic approach. They utilize largely Festehen, okay, to understand the issues of the people from their perspective and to address them. Okay, so it was Festehen plus reform. Not just understand, but also work on it. Okay, work on those issues. European sociology was initially grand theoretical and then gradually moved towards macro to micro, whereas American started with micro and moved towards macro. Okay, started with micro and moved towards macro, and then came towards meso. Meso means middle range. Middle range theory, Merton. ओके, ऐसे करना है बस, इतना काफी है 10 मार्क्स के लिए, इतना ही बहुत है. ओके, Indian sociology had a very different context. Very different context. Indian sociology emerged in the context of colonialism. Colonialism, उसका अलग context है. ओके, तो ये बेसिकली ऐसे ऐसे डिफरेंसेस हैं इन सब चीजों में. Let us now discuss Merton, finish Merton. Okay. Yesterday I told you Devian's theory, reference group theory, Matthew effect. Let me now discuss role and status theory. Role and status. हाँ, इंटरप्रेटिव दोनों में है. इंटरप्रेटिव in Europe, interpretive was a challenge to collectivist orientation. Okay. And in America, collectivist orientation was challenge to interpretivism. Okay, ulta. Talcott Parsons started with structure of social action, voluntarism, and then gradually moved towards social system. Just like Max Weber. Max Weber started with social action and then started talking about not system, he did not use the word system, but large scale social structure like capitalism. Okay. Role and status theory. Very simple. Very simple. And this theory you will use in reference group. ओके, कैसे यूज करेंगे मैं बताता हूं. What is role and status theory? Many people have discussed role and status. Concept of role and status was actually discussed by psychologists, anthropologists, and then gradually it moved towards the domain of sociology. And if you remember, I told you in sociology versus psychology, role is a concept that bridge both sociology and psychology. Okay, दोनों में आता है वो. There have been many scholars who have dealt with this concept. Ralph Linton is one scholar. Okay. Parsons, Luhmann, Merton. Now, what is this? To explain you this, first let me talk about very basic concept like role set. Role set. Okay. And status set. Then you will understand what is role and status. Role set and status set. Let me begin with status, because we have to understand the difference between the two. What is status? Right now, I'm having a status of teacher. This is my status. What is this status? Achieved status or ascriptive status? Achieved status. I also have status. ये ascribed किसने बोला? नहीं बोला. I also have a status of son, beta. This is ascribed status. That means I can have both statuses, ascribed and achieved both. Right? And all the ascribed statuses that I have, son, brother, friend, colleague, all these are ascribed status. Achieved status, I have multiple. Engineer, teacher, sociologist, okay, student of sociology, researcher, all these are achieved statuses. All these combined together form a set. Status set. So status set is a set of ascribed plus achieved statuses. Sir, does not this multiple role comes into? अरे अभी कहाँ सो ही नहीं, अभी रुक जाओ तुम. साइकोलॉजी भी साइड में रखो, वैल्यू न्यूट्रल होके पढ़ो. भूल जाओ साइकोलॉजी के स्टूडेंट हो तुम, रुक जाओ. ठीक है, रोल कन्फ्लिक्ट अभी आगे आएगा. सोशियोलॉजी पे फोकस. सोशियोलॉजी. वी आर नॉट स्टडीइंग साइकोलॉजी. सोशियोलॉजी. पेशेंस इज अ वर्च्यू. ठीक है. Status set is ascribed plus achieved status. What is role set? And how is role different from status? See, I have a status known as teacher. This is my status. Which status? Achieved status. But as a teacher, I have multiple roles. ठीक है सोहिनी? As a teacher, I have multiple roles. First role is to conduct class. ठीक है? First role is to conduct class. Second role, conduct test. Third, organize class notes. Okay. And to help student practice with daily answer writing. Fourth role. These are my roles. Daily answer writing. टेस्ट सीरीज वो उसी में हो गया, ऑर्गेनाइज क्लास टेस्ट में, टेस्ट सीरीज अलग से भी मान लो. ओके. रिजॉल्व डाउट्स, डाउट सेशंस. ओके. These are multiple roles that I have as a teacher, which is my status. Understood the difference between role and status? Okay. As a university teacher, I would have some other roles as well. University teacher has one more role, to publish journals or to write articles for newspapers. Okay, that is also one role, because whenever he or she writes an article, that actually gives him one reward, or that actually adds up to his profile, and it increases his chances to become or to get promotion as senior professor, because these things add up to the profile or resume. Okay. So every status has multiple set of role. Now, mother is a status, ascribed status. Mother is not achieved status. Okay. And by the way, there are some statuses which are beyond ascriptive and achievement. Okay. Third category of status, where you cannot be clearly differentiating between ascription and achievement. Okay. Motherhood is actually an achievement in itself. In the sense, you achieve motherhood, but we call it ascriptive. You are not mother by birth. Okay. Motherhood is achieved, but ये एक प्रॉब्लम है इस कैटेगरी में, इसका एक क्रिटिसिज्म है, दिस इज क्रिटिसिज्म, बट उसमें हमें जाने की जरूरत नहीं, वो हमारे सिलेबस में है नहीं. मदर इज, let us assume it is ascriptive status. Let us assume like this, ascribed. Okay. As mother, you have multiple roles. You have to take care of the husband, children. You have to cook food for them as well. Okay. I'm not saying she has to, but वो जो हो रहा है वो है, उसी की बात कर रहा हूँ. Okay. Then she also has to attend parent teacher meeting. Okay. बहुत काम है. He also has to manage budget of the house, hire person who can clean the house, wipe the house, dish, wash. Okay. So she is doing so many roles as a mother, and all those would combine to form role set of status of mother, ascriptive status. So this is clear. Okay. अब issue क्या है? What is the main issue? Issue is, suppose you are a mother who is IPS officer. A mother is an IPS officer, and her son, उसका जो बेटा है वो है ड्रगिस्ट. Her son is drug addict, bad company. Okay. क्या करेगी वो एक माँ भी है और एक ऑफिसर भी है. क्या करेगी? क्या करोगे? फंस गए, प्रॉब्लम आ गई. Talcott Parson बोलता है, Talcott Parson tells me that She is an IPS officer first. Okay. She is mother only at home. But in wider society, she is IPS officer. Okay. And as IPS officer, he is expected to maintain which standards? Pattern variable B standards. Okay. यूनिवर्सल, अफेक्टिव न्यूट्रल, इमोशनल नहीं होना कि बेटा ड्रग एडिक्ट है इसको नहीं छोड़ दो नहीं इसको मत मारो प्लीज मत मारो। अरे तुम आईपीएस ऑफिसर हो, मारो उसको। जैसा ट्रीटमेंट तुम बाहर वाले के साथ करते हो करो अपने बेटे के साथ। यूनिवर्सल स्टैंडर्ड रखो ना। बट इफ यू डू नॉट डू दिस, दैट सिंपली शोज दैट यू आर नॉट मॉडर्न, यू आर ट्रेडिशनल। मॉडर्न माइंडसेट ही नहीं है। ओके मॉडर्निटी आसान नहीं है। वो तभी तो बोलते हैं टैलेंटेड पर्सन, अमेरिका हैज हाईएस्ट अडेप्टिव कैपेसिटी। वहां पे इमोशनल लोग नहीं है, इंस्ट्रूमेंटल लोग हैं, हाईली ऑब्जेक्टिव, अफेक्टिव न्यूट्रल। आज एक के साथ रिलेशनशिप में है, टूट गया, कल किसी और के साथ, इसमें रोने की कोई बात नहीं हो, ना वो रोएगी ना ये रोएगा, हैप्पीली मूविंग ऑन। ओके हाईली इंस्ट्रूमेंटल, हमारा बन नहीं रहा आपस में, क्या है, झगड़ा हो गया था हमारा। अच्छा, व्हाई डिड यू गाइज fight with each other yesterday? Why did you break up? Nothing. I asked him $100. He said I do not have. That is why I broke up. Oh, अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा, फिर ठीक है, सिंपल। अब ये हम बोलेंगे अरे इतनी सी बात में झगड़ा हो गया। नहीं नहीं, इतनी सी बात नहीं, इंस्ट्रूमेंटल। उसने he did not fulfill my need. I broke up. I moved on because I found someone else who can fulfill my need. Simple. That is why it is highly modern society. Okay. Now, what does Merton say? What she will do as mother and as IPS officer? This is clear cut a role conflict. Role conflict he calls it as. Role conflict. Okay. Can you see this? Is it visible? Okay. Here is a lady at the center of the picture. Lady having statuses. The first circle, the inner circle, represents set of status. He is professor, mother, researcher, wife. It is status set of statuses. Okay. Professor is achieved status, mother ascriptive or achieve, whatever you call it. Okay. Researcher achieved status, wife ascriptive. Okay. Now these are status set in the inner circle. Okay. Status set. Each status having different roles. For example, professor, the professor status having two roles. Okay. For example, teacher role, he has to teach or she has to teach, and she also is having a role of colleague. As a colleague to other professors, she has to discuss things with them as well, attend seminars, conferences. Okay, get together. Colleague role, teacher role. As mother, she has two roles, maternal role, civic role. As researcher, she has two roles, author role, field work role, field worker. Okay. As wife, she has two roles, मैरिटल रोल हस्बैंड का, डोमेस्टिक रोल घर का. अंडरस्टूड? So this is status set and these are role set. Role sets in the outer edge. Role sets corresponding to status. Okay. Status of professor having a role set, two roles. There can be other roles as well. Okay. Now, what is role conflict? Role conflict is a professor who is a teacher and professor who is also a mother having to perform maternal role. How? Suppose, like for example, my mother is a teacher. Okay. So my brother at one point of time was a student of my mother. Okay. In class 10th. Okay. And my brother was failing. फेल हो रहा था वो. ठीक है. And she was checking the paper घर पे ही. And she also used to take help of my father. कभी कभी पेपर चेक करने के लिए because there are so many papers. And father को दिख गया भाई फेल हो रहा है. ठीक है. And you know these things were always hidden from him. Okay. Always hidden because he would never tell him कि तुम्हारा पेपर मेरे पास आया है. ठीक है. Now, as a mother, he is concerned about his son. As a teacher, he has to be honest and universal standard she has to adopt. क्या करेगी? Role conflict. पास कर दी अल्टीमेटली 33% देके उसको. ठीक है. Because she also has to maintain the image in the class कि टीचर जो है ये लड़का जो है this man is of course he is son to ma'am, so of course ma'am would always give him better score. So she really had to maintain a balance between the image that students might have formed of her and the kind of person she is as a teacher. Okay, role conflict. So this is all about role conflict. Status set and role sets. Status set includes all the statuses a person holds at a given time. Status set defines who we are in society. Many roles linked to each status define what we do. So status is what we are and role is what we do. Simple. ठीक है. Now the question is, how is this relevant to reference group theory? रेफरेंस ग्रुप थ्योरी भाई एक बात बताओ, a lady who is a mother, she wants to become teacher, so teacher is a reference group to her or not? Okay, so when she will become teacher, he will have to manage this role, these two different statuses and the conflict that may arise in these two seemingly different or opposite roles. Okay, her son is her student as well. Okay, role conflict. When you have a reference group, you want to become a part of that. Once you have become part of it through anticipatory socialization, once you have become part of it within the reference group, what will happen? If by chance she is supporting her son, giving her marks, giving him passing marks every time when he is not performing really well, what will happen? Within the reference group, the other teachers will get to know about this. Okay, and other teachers will complain this to the principal, and principal will scold her. ये क्या कर रहे हो तुम? मदर हो अपने घर पे, स्कूल में टीचर हो, ठीक है? यू आर सस्पेंडेड. अब ये क्या है? What is this? In the reference group, this is happening. Okay. In the reference group, this happened. What does it explain? She has been reduced to marginality. Robert Ezra Park. Okay, marginality. उधर की भी नहीं रही, इधर की भी नहीं रही. उसको भी ढंग से नहीं पढ़ा पाई, तभी उसको फेल होते हुए को पास करना था. इधर भी अपना इंप्रेशन मेंटेन नहीं कर पाई एज अ टीचर. ठीक है, मार्जिनैलिटी. तो ये है. चलो अब बात करते हैं some important issues. Let me discuss the last topic, that is manifest and latent. Manifest and latent. And in fact, not even this. Let me discuss one more thing before discussing manifest latent, because that should be discussed before this only. Otherwise, you would not be able to understand a link, proper link between these two. Okay. So let me first discuss very important topic, most important in fact, Merton's critique to structural functionalism. Merton's critique to structural functionalism. Very important. Remember one thing. This is not Merton criticizing Talcott Parsons. Remember this. इसको याद रखना बड़ा important है. Some elements you will find that he is criticizing Parsons, but he is not criticizing Parsons. Some element he is. Largely, he did not develop criticism to structural functionalism to criticize Parsons. Rather, he developed the criticism to structural functionalism to criticize Malinowski and Radcliffe Brown, anthropologist. मैं बाद में बताऊंगा इनके बारे में, ठीक है? देखो ऐसा है, सीधी सी बात क्या है. Structural functionalism has its origin as a theory in the writings of Herbert Spencer. ठीक है, ये आया हर्बर्ट स्पेंसर से है एज अ थ्योरी आई एम सेइंग. ओके, and but he never called it structural functionalism, but he was actually describing this only, which was later labeled as structural functionalism. But the ideas, the origin can be traced to the writings of Herbert Spencer, which was later used by Emile Durkheim. Okay, and Emile Durkheim inspired Radcliffe Brown, anthropologist. Okay, anthropologist. Now I'll briefly tell you a difference between anthropologist and sociologist, जो मैंने उस टाइम नहीं बताया था. Okay, remember there is no difference. There is no difference. Okay, Whosoever is telling you difference is telling you from a specific reference point, but that would not be universally valid. I'll explain you why. Conventionally it is said that anthropologists study simple societies or tribal societies, and sociologists study modern societies, urban societies. This is conventional difference. The fact is, sociologists also study tribal societies, and anthropologists also study urban societies. सिंपल सी बात है. We have study on urbanization by anthropologists. We have study on tribal and villages by sociologists. Okay. Acha, at one point of time it was thought like that anthropologists studies family, kinship, tribe. Family, kinship and tribe. That is not wrong. In sociology syllabus we have family, kinship and tribe as well. So that is not right. Okay. We have anthropology of nationalism as well. Nationalism is a modern phenomena. Nationalism is a modern phenomena. Okay. Anthropology of nationalism would mean nation, the conception of nation in the tribe. Tribes also have nation. That is nation only, what they form. Anthropologists are those people who actually, the fact is that anthropologists are those people who will tell you whatever you are doing today has its origin in the past. In the past means in the very ancient past. Past does not mean 1800 modern society onward. Okay, has its roots in the ancient past. For example, let me give you one example. When Corona struck India for the first time, coronavirus, we started blaming Tablighi Jamaat. Okay. Basically, Hindu started blaming Muslims. यही हो रहा था कि नहीं हो रहा था? हुआ था कि नहीं हुआ था? हुआ था. ये हमारा एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट क्या बोलेगा देखो इस पे. एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट विल से ये हमारा नेचर है. ये हमारा इनहेरेंट नेचर है. When we see anything wrong done to us, we start blaming people. This is known as witch hunting. In those ancient times, we used to hunt witches, that she is the one because of which all my children have fallen ill. Okay, she is the one because of which we had to go through famine. Okay. So this is witch hunting practice. Okay. There is one scholar, Stanley Cohen, a sociologist, who would not call it witch hunting. He will say folk devilization. He is the devil. Those Muslim people are devils of the folk, Hindu folks. Folk devilization. Folk ka devil. So it's very much like witch hunting. So you would not really find a difference between them. Anthropologists also study modern society. These people also study ancient societies. Okay. The only difference, some people also say that anthropologists conduct field study and sociologists conduct surveys and interviews, which are modern instruments. Okay. ऐसा थोड़ा ना है. As I told you that sociologists also study village studies, tribal studies, तो ऑब्वियसली वो वहां ट्राइब में इंटरव्यू लेंगे क्या ट्राइबल का? वो तो उधर फील्ड में ही जाएंगे, फील्ड स्टडी ही तो करेंगे वो. Anthropologists also use interviews in surveys. Okay. Anthropologist may be studying ancient society, but anthropologist is a modern man himself. Okay. Then where is the difference? The difference actually lies in the degree. the extent to which sociologists study modern societies, that is not the extent to which anthropologists study modern society. The difference lies only in degree. The difference lies in emphasis. We emphasize on study of modernity. They emphasize on study of simple societies. That is the only difference, nothing else. Now, Durkheim was a structural functionalist. Being structural functionalist, he studied functions of the institutions to the system. Radcliffe Brown was also a structural functionalist. A.R. Radcliffe Brown. Second is Malinowski. These are two anthropologists. And here, the dominant name is, the two names, if you can talk about, are Durkheim and Parsons. Simple. These two are contemporaries. Radcliffe Brown and Durkheim are contemporaries. Similarly, these two are contemporaries. Simple. Okay. Now, remember, Durkheim, when he talks about structural functionalism, he is talking about function of institutions to the society and to the individuals. When these people are talking about structural functionalism, there is a difference between the structural functionalism version of these two, but I am not going into those details. हम anthropology के student नहीं हैं. But largely we can understand that when these people are talking about structural functionalism, they are talking about function of institutions to the system in simple society. In simple society. Simple means pre-industrial or tribal. And when Durkheim is dealing with structural functionalism, he is talking about function of institutions in the system, to the system in modern society, complex society. Okay, इसको याद रखना है. Similar, 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 difference being modern. Okay. Now Robert Merton comes. Robert Merton has actually studied structural functionalism in depth. And Robert Merton found some issues with structural functionalism. There are 3 issues total. Merton critiqued 3 basic postulates. 3 basic postulates of structural functionalism given by A.R. Radcliffe Brown and Malinowski. That means he is criticizing the anthropological structural functionalism. इसको ध्यान रखना है. ठीक है. लोग पार्सन्स ज्यादा बोलते हैं, ऐसा नहीं है. पार्सन्स थोड़ा बहुत एलिमेंट है, बट मेनली वो है. Now, what are those 3 basic postulates? First, functional unity postulate. Second, functional indispensability postulate. Third, functional universality postulate. These are the three postulates of anthropology, structural functionalism, okay, which is going to be criticized by Merton now. I'll explain you what are these three postulates. यूनिटी, इंडिस्पेंसिबिलिटी, यूनिवर्सैलिटी, इसको याद रखना है. ठीक है. फर्स्ट वी विल डिस्कस फंक्शनल यूनिटी. You must have noticed that whether it is Durkheim or whether it is Parsons, both the people have been discussing about how institutions maintain the system. Any institution you talk about, they maintain the system. Religion, maintain the system. Durkheim also says it. Parsons also saying it. Similar. Family, which you will read later on, doing similar thing. Maintain the system. Helpful in contributing to the maintenance of system. Okay. Law, maintaining the system. Durkheim also said repressive, restitutive. Talcott Parson also believed integrative role played by laws. Minimize conflict, resolves conflict, maintain solidarity. Okay, conflict को खत्म कर देते हैं, punishment देके खत्म कर दिया. Anything you talk about in functionalism, always एक ही बात बोली जा रही है, एक ही बात. Every institution playing a role in maintenance of system. This is what is known as functional unity postulate. ये postulate है, एक set of belief है. Okay. States, functional unity postulate states that any given social institution or structure plays a role in maintenance of system. Maintenance, unity, maintenance. Okay. Next. First I am discussing those three postulates and then I'll tell you Merton ने कैसे criticize किया. Okay. Second, functional, and if possible try to make one table, or if possible try to draw one line here, because I will also tell you what Merton is saying on this line. ऐसा अगर कुछ possible है तो बना लो अभी से. Okay. Second is functional indispensability. Postulate. Indispensable. What is the meaning of indispensable? English, simple. Indispensable. नेसेसरी है, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, ओके, इंडिस्पेंसिबल। नेसेसरी इज ओके, एक थोड़ा सा एक डिफरेंस है, आगे एक और वर्ड लगेगा, मतलब इसका सब्स्टिट्यूट ही नहीं है कोई। ये जो डिजिटल बोर्ड है, दिस इज इंडिस्पेंसिबल, ओके, इसका सब्स्टिट्यूट ही नहीं है, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है ये तो, इंडिस्पेंसिबल है, इसको खरीद ही लो, इसके बिना काम चलेगा नहीं इस किताब के बिना, ओके। सो फंक्शनल indispensability, whether you talk about Durkheim, whether you talk about रेडक्लिफ ब्राउन और मालिनोव्स्की, यहां पे आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट पार्सन, देखो यहां पे मैंने एक शिफ्ट लिया है अभी, ठीक है। ऊपर मैंने क्या बोला, आई सेड वेदर यू टॉक अबाउट डरखाइम, पार्सन्स, दोनों यही बोलते हैं। हियर आई एम सेइंग वेदर यू टॉक अबाउट डरखाइम, पार्सन बोला नहीं, और रेडक्लिफ ब्राउन, मालिनोव्स्की, ठीक है, उनमें यू विल फाइंड अ सिमिलैरिटी। व्हाट इज द सिमिलैरिटी? डरखाइम सेज every institution in society, okay, is there to maintain the order, okay, it's a social fact, it's sacred, okay, that maintains the order, and therefore it is indispensable. Indispensable, that means society cannot do anything without those things. Religion to Durkheim is indispensable. Every society is governed by sacred profane principle. Every society has this sacred profane dichotomy. Everywhere people consider something as sacred, this is indispensable. ऐसा हो ही नहीं सकता people do not consider anything sacred in any society. This is indispensable. Secondly, what is the meaning of indispensable? Some more meaning. What religion is doing, suppose what I am doing on this digital board, can I do the same on glass of water? I cannot draw on glass of water and teach you, okay, that is completely different thing. So similarly Durkheim says what religion is doing, that cannot be done by any other thing, therefore it is indispensable. What laws are doing cannot be done by anything else. Punishment is given by law, और कौन देगा punishment? Indispensable है, okay. Production of resources, distribution of resources, who will do? Economy. This is indispensable, और कोई कर ही नहीं सकता. Now, so what we will write here? We will write functional indispensability postulate states that given social institution or structure is or has no alternative, has no alternative, has no substitute, that has to be there. The given social institution structure has no alternative and has to be there. And the given social institution has to be there to perform requisite function. To perform the requisite function. Okay. Now, third, functional universality. Functional universality simply states Every social institution or structure plays positive function. Positive function. Okay, just write this down. Every social institution or structure plays a positive function. Positive function. What is the meaning of positive? That means maintaining the system is positive function only, na? So therefore, every institution is playing positive function. This is also a postulate. Now comes Merton. All four included in the क्या चीज? Now comes Merton. Merton starts criticizing these postulates. He found out these postulates very common in the writings of structural functionalist. And one by one he is reviewing. First of all, if you look into the third one, functional universality, does religion play only a positive function? Religion also plays negative functions. You know this very well. Communal politics, fundamentalism, terrorism, secessionist movements, sectarian wars. Religion also plays negative role, communal rights. Okay. That means institution is playing not just positive role, it is also playing negative role. Okay. Durkheim did not discuss these things when he was talking about religion. You talk about state, Indian state, for example. Indian state, functionalists will always say, will play positive function. And that is why, functionalists are always regarded as pro-state and status quoist. So, for example, if you are writing on behalf of state or if you are talking about glory of state, you are functionalist. Okay. So, if you read any article talking about the contributions of policy, betterment of the society by this policy, so that is functional analysis of that policy. And therefore, it is status quoist. Status quoist. Okay. Pro-state. Status quoist. ओके एक ये डिवीजन है कि जब तक आप प्रो स्टेट हो आप स्टेटस कोइस्ट हो क्योंकि चेंज लाने के लिए यू हैव टू प्रोटेस्ट अगेंस्ट द स्टेट कोई भी चेंज इस दुनिया में जो भी चेंज आया है whatever changes have come into this world has come only because of the protest against the state ठीक है डेमोक्रेसी का कॉन्सेप्ट खुद प्रोटेस्ट से ही आया था रेवोल्यूशन से नहीं तो डेमोक्रेसी कहां से आती है इस दुनिया में तो यू कैन नॉट बी ऑलवेज और यू शुड नॉट बी अकॉर्डिंग टू मार्क्सिस्ट writing on behalf of state. But anyhow, state does not play only positive function. State also plays negative functions. Okay, many negative functions. Surveillance. Okay, a negative function played by state. Snooping. Okay, Pegasus जो चल रहा है. Snooping. Okay. There are many negative functions of the state that state does. Most of the time what happens is state in order to maintain certain budget it would start raising the price of fuel. Okay, it is also negative function played by state if knows that most of the people are weaker sections. Okay, so how can it afford to raise fuel price? It is a negative function. Okay, because every set of economy is going to have repercussion because of the rise in the fuel price. Okay, State also gets engaged in conflict with other states, the repercussion of which has to be faced by citizens. Okay, that is also negative function played by a state. This is something functional universalism does not talk about, and Merton talked about it. Therefore, Merton is doing what? Merton is bringing Marxism into structural functionalism. What is Merton doing here? Merton is trying to bring both together. He is saying the problem with so-called grand theoretical orientations have been structural functionalism have only read positive, positive. Marxism have only read negative, negative. अरे but the reality is both. So we should study both. ये बेवकूफों की तरह हम ऐसे क्यों करते हैं? ये पॉजिटिव ये नेगेटिव है. एक सिर्फ कॉन्फ्लिक्ट देखता है, दूसरा सिर्फ कंसेंसस देखता है. रियलिटी में तो दोनों है. Okay, so this is one critique to structural functionalism by integrating Marxism. And therefore, he is not just talking about positive functions, he is also talking about negative functions. Negative functions are written by Merton as dysfunctions. Dysfunctions. Okay, dysfunctions of religion, dysfunctions of state. Okay. Clear? Third one. Now, second one, very important. Functional indispensability. Merton is saying, Arik, there is nothing indispensable. There are many institutions that can do function that was being done by some other institution at one point of time. भाई एक बात बताओ, punishment, the role of punishment is done by which institution? Tell me. Punishment is given by which institution in society? Law. Law. Judiciary. Arey, punishment is also given by religion. Blasphemy. Punishment is also given by mob lynching. Punishment तो कोई भी दे सकता है. ये मत बोलो सही कौन दे रहा है, गलत कौन दे रहा है. ये नहीं बोल सकते हम इस पोजीशन में ही नहीं है कहने के. कई बार तो जुडिशरी ने अपनी ही जजमेंट्स को ओवरटर्न किया है. तो सही मत बोलो तुम कि ये सही वो गलत है. ये ना ही भी neither we will say Supreme Court is right, nor we will say mob is wrong. We are simply studying punishment is given by these many institutions. I am person coming from Mars. I do not know what is right or wrong in Earth. I am just seeing. Acha, punishment is given by mob also. Oh, punishment given by court also. Oh, acha, punishment given by religion also. So I am writing all these things. Punishment given by religion, law. Simple. Punishment given by family also. थप्पड़ मारती है, घर से निकालती है. क्या बात है? ठीक है. कभी कभी ऐसा होता है फैमिली की पनिशमेंट ज्यादा हार्श होती है, जुडिशरी की लिबरल होगी. फैमिली तुम्हें धक्के मार देगी प्रॉपर्टी से, निकलो. जुडिशरी बोलेगा अरे नहीं दो दो यार, इसको दो ना, प्रॉपर्टी दो ना, थोड़ा सा ₹1 तो दो कम से कम. तो पनिशमेंट क्या होता है? ये कैसे बोल सकते हो तुम जुडिशरी देती है? ये कैसी बात है यार? पॉलिटी के स्टूडेंट्स हो क्या तुम? सोशियोलॉजी के स्टूडेंट्स हो? अच्छा, टेल मी what religion does. Religion can also be done by some other institutions or not? मुझे एक चीज बताओ, हमने टैलकट पार्सर में क्या पढ़ा था? We read this only. Church, family. At one point of time, were doing those many things. Today, church and family is doing only this much. Rest of the things are being done by other institutions. We have specialized institutions now doing all those things. So family, for example, family, if the role of family is to take care of the elderly, this can be done by crutch, daycare centers, kindergarten, play school as well, or care of the child basically. Okay, if the role of family is to get two people together in arranged marriage or to get two people married, this can be done by other institutions as well. आर्य समाज कैन डू दिस, फैमिली की जरूरत नहीं है, जिसको बोलते हैं आर्य समाजी शादियां, आर्य समाज की हुई शादियां, आर्य समाजिस्ट जो भी होते हैं वो, ठीक है। फैमिली का कोई रोल नहीं। कोर्ट कैन ऑल्सो डू दिस, कोर्ट शादी करवा सकता है, फैमिली की कोई जरूरत नहीं। एप्स, डिजिटल एप्स शादी करवा सकती है, फैमिली का कोई रोल नहीं। तो यू कैन नॉट से this is done by this, no other institution can do this, and this therefore this institution is indispensable. अरे nothing is indispensable, कोई institution कोई कुछ भी कर सकता है, ठीक है। Who will marry whom, कौन किससे शादी करेगा, will be decided by नहीं, टिंडर मत बोलो, टिंडर कभी नहीं बोलता तुम इससे शादी करो, टिंडर चॉइस दे रहा है तुम्हें। इंडिविजुअल्स का पेरेंट्स कहां से आ गए, ये टॉक लाइक सोशियोलॉजिस्ट। अरे स्टेट डिसाइड, स्टेट डिसाइड्स हु विल मैरी होम, ये स्टेट डिसाइड करता है, पेरेंट्स थोड़ा ना डिसाइड करते हैं यार, करते हैं मतलब ऑफ कोर्स करते हैं, बट मैं तो सिर्फ ऑल्टरनेटिव्स की बात कर रहा हूं। आई विल टॉक अबाउट ऑल्टरनेटिव्स, दैट फैमिली इज नॉट इंडिस्पेंसिबल, वी हैव स्टेट डिसाइडिंग वेदर दिस विल मैरी दिस मैन और नॉट। अभी देखो रिसेंटली लास्ट ईयर व्हाट हैपेंड, यूपी गवर्नमेंट केम अप विद अ लॉ as to whether you can marry this man or not. Okay. State decides. And also, this marriage is not allowed, illegal, is decided by a state only. State tells us, ये child marriage है, ये void, this stands nullified and void. It is not family, it is state deciding who can marry and who cannot. Okay, so we have many institutions in society which can perform a role which is generally supposed to be performing by one other institution. Nothing is indispensable. Okay. Communism is performing the role which at one point of time was supposed to be performed by religion. That role will be performed by communism. This is what Marx says. मार्क्स वही बोलता है कि जो रोल ये इंस्टीट्यूशंस कर रहे हैं वो रोल कम्युनिज्म प्ले करेगा, एंड इन अ फ्री एंड फेयर मैनर. Communism as an ideology will play all the roles that are played by these institutions, but communism will be fair. It will be performing those roles in a fair manner. Okay. So this is what functional indispensability is all about. Now tell me, पॉलिटी की लैंग्वेज में बात करते हैं, ठीक है, इंडियन पॉलिटी की लैंग्वेज में. Don't we find the role of courts or the role of parliaments being played by courts? Don't you find this? Have you not seen judiciary playing the role of parliament? We call it judicial activism. वो क्या होता है, वो पार्लियामेंट का ही तो रोल प्ले कर रहे हैं वो, ये ऐसी कोई स्ट्रिक्ट बाउंड्री है नहीं. ओके, एंड जुडिशियल एक्टिविज्म इज ऑल्सो फेयर, वो कोई अल्ट्रा वायर्स ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन तो है भी नहीं, ठीक है। व्हेन स्टेट इज नॉट परफॉर्मिंग इट्स ड्यूटी rightfully, then judiciary will have to intervene. Similar thing happens with all the organs. When this organ is not performing, other organs will have to take a step and substitute it. Have you not seen parliament performing the role of judiciary? Parliament भी करता है. Parliament also tells you what you cannot do. Ninth Amendment. Okay. So, no institution is indispensable. This is what Merton is saying, and Merton is actually happy with Talcott Parsons here, because Talcott Parsons is the first one to describe this, if you remember, structural differentiation. So here Merton is actually shaking hands with Parsons. तो जब लोग बोलते हैं कि ये क्रिटिक है पार्सन्स का, तो गलत बोलते हैं लोग, और गलत बोलती हैं वो कुंजियां जिसमें ये लिखा होता है, ठीक है। कल मुझे किसी ने बताया, yesterday someone told me that in one kunji it is written that scientists are innovators. क्या कर सकते हैं देखो। तभी तो आई ऑलवेज सजेस्ट पीपल नॉट टू रीड कुंजीज। मर्टन ने नहीं बोला तो व्हाट इज इनोवेटर का मीनिंग ही बदल दिया। इनोवेटर इज नॉट इंग्लिश वाला इनोवेटर दैट मर्टन इज टॉकिंग अबाउट, ठीक है। तो इफ यू फाइंड साइंटिस्ट रिटन इन कुंजीज, तो बर्न द कुंजी। ओके, अंबेडकर सेड बर्न दी शास्त्रास। जब शास्त्रा बर्न कर सकते हैं, कुंजियों को बर्न करने में कौन सी बड़ी बात है। क्योंकि शास्त्रास जो होते हैं, शास्त्रास मेंटेन एन ऑर्डर दैट इज immoral, illegitimate. Similarly, kunjis maintain an order that is ill-conceived, false, and stupid. So, ये हो गया हमारा functional indispensability. Okay. Now, last is functional unity. Functional unity. Functional unity means any given social institution plays a role in maintenance of system. ऐसा नहीं होता। There are many roles that is played by those institutions which are not maintaining the system, rather those roles are disintegrating the system. Okay, and this is what Merton is talking about. There are many things done by institutions that do not maintain system, that disintegrate the system. Disintegrate. The classic example, and first of all, let us also remember this one thing. When structural functionalism is discussing this thing, okay, this postulate, when Merton is reading this postulate, Merton says this is valid only in simple societies. In tribal societies, you would see religion playing maintenance of the system. But in the modern complex society, where we do not have one religion in one society, we have multiple religions existing within one society. In tribal society, you see one religion. Animism है छोटे से tribe में. Senthanalese you will go to, they will practice one religion. Arunta, one religion. India, multiple religions. Okay. America today, multiple religions. This is the issue with modern society. In modern society, that is why we call modern societies as complex societies. Complex societies have multiple religions. Simple societies have one religion. One religion can unify. Multiple religions cannot unify. Okay, multiple religions may even disintegrate the system. Europe. Okay. What we see in Europe is nothing but religious wars only. Charlie Hebdo case जो हुआ था. See, on the one hand, you had that person drawing caricature of Prophet Muhammad. Okay. And then the people, the Muslims, got offended. Specifically, radical Muslims. Okay. And you know what happened after that? So, religion can disintegrate systems, break down the systems. Okay. The very idea of India Pakistan partition was the result of religion only. Broke the system. Okay. Partition. It was not maintenance, it was complete partition. Okay. Israel Palestine. You can clearly see. So, those institutions may be playing a maintenance role in simple society, but in modern complex, they do not. This is what Merton is saying. This was all about Merton's critique to functional postulates. Now remember, important thing. Merton has issued advisory. Merton has released one advisory as well as to what should be done, how a sociologist should study anything, how a sociologist should conduct analysis. This is what he is telling. Okay, first time it was told by Durkheim, second time now it is being told by Merton. Okay, Merton is saying three things. Merton says that when you say this is functional to the system, okay, or functional to the individuals, these are very vague statements, very vague. Okay, arbitrary, vague, abstract statements. Okay, because what is functional to the system may be dysfunctional to some individuals. This is the whole reality. What is dysfunctional to some other may be functional to some others. And maybe neither functional nor dysfunctional, but non-functional to few others. This is the complete holistic analysis. भाई एक बात बताओ. For example, slavery as an institution was functional to the system. This is what structural functionalism would say. Because slavery is providing prosperity to the system. Only because of slaves, we had so much productivity. Okay. But slavery as an institution is dysfunctional to the slaves. So we should have complete holistic analysis. Okay. And it is not completely functional to the systems. It is functional to the masters. Okay. And other laws are developed to justify this functionality. Okay. This is what Merton says, first line. We should always study net balanced analysis. We should always carry out net balanced analysis, which means we should study functions. Okay, no issue, but functional to whom? You cannot say functional to the system. This is very vague. Few things may be functional to few people, maybe dysfunctional to few others. Okay, non-functional to few others. Unpaid domestic work done by women. You cannot say it is functional to Indian society. ऐसा बोलोगे क्या? इतना वेग है ये स्टेटमेंट. It is functional to male members or family. Okay, but it is dysfunctional to them. तभी तो डिमांड कर रहे हैं वो. Okay, it may be functional to few women and may be dysfunctional to few other women. In Western women, Western women it may be completely dysfunctional, but to Indian women may be functional. To North Indian women may be functional. To South Indian women completely dysfunctional. This is what the net balance analysis should be like. You cannot be saying that functional to everything, functional to system. Ekdam. Therefore, the next step, we should develop levels of analysis. Levels of analysis. Okay. Levels of analysis. That means anything could be functional to system, group, individuals, and individuals within some other group as well. Okay, we should develop levels of analysis. ठीक है? Think about Durga Puja. Durga Puja. Now you will realize one thing. I am very freely talking about things like Durga Puja, domestic work. बड़ा freely बात कर रहा हूँ मैं इन सब के बारे में क्योंकि मैं मर्टन पढ़ा रहा हूँ. If I was teaching you Durkheim all those, I would not have felt so free to discuss these empirical realities. मुझे ऐसे बोलना पड़ता है रिलीजन बताओ क्या फंक्शन है, रोक रहा होता हूँ उस टाइम अपने आप को, फिर मुझे पता होता है क्वेश्चन आएंगे लेकिन फिर डिफेंड करना है मुझे डरखाइम को क्योंकि वो मेरी ड्यूटी है. ठीक है, देखो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग, मर्टन सेज स्ट्रक्चरल फंक्शनल एनालिसिस जब आप करते हो, व्हेन यू कंडक्ट स्ट्रक्चरल फंक्शनल एनालिसिस, anything can be subjected to structural functional analysis. You should not be limiting yourself to social structures or institutions. Any small scale event, if that small scale event is repetitive and standardized and forms a pattern, so you will see every year Durga Puja celebrated, so it is a pattern. So whenever you conduct structural functional analysis of anything, that should be patterned, standardized. Only then you can subject it to structural functional analysis, otherwise not. Okay, so therefore Merton has liberated structural functionalism from structural functionalism. Okay, and has actually induced net empirical analysis of the objects that may not be large scale social structures but are empirical social processes, cultural forms, norms, social values. Anything can be subject to structural functional analysis. Okay, Durga Puja. Durga Puja is functional to whom? Durga Puja is functional to Bengalis. Okay, Hindus, मान लो, it is functional to Hindus. But Durga Puja is highly dysfunctional for those people who are driving car on the day of Durga Puja. इतना ट्रैफिक, सीधी सी बात है, प्रैक्टिकल जो है सो है। दुर्गा पूजा इज हाईली डिसफंक्शनल टू रैग पिकर्स, इतना कूड़ा हो जाता है, इतना कचरा, ठीक है। इट मे इवन बी फंक्शनल टू देम, बट फॉर दैट वी हैव टू आस्क हिम, आर यू हैप्पी? दैट मीन्स वी हैव टू गो इनटू माइक्रो एनालिसिस। द अदर पर्सपेक्टिव कैन बी, वो बोलेगा मैं तो बड़ा खुश हूं, लॉटरी निकल गई, बोतल ही बोतल, आज इतनी सारी उठाऊंगा मैं। बट फिर वो बोलेगा अरे नहीं नहीं डिसफंक्शनल है, बिकॉज व्हेन आई एम कैरिंग दिस रैग, डॉग्स आर बार्किंग एट मी, कुत्ते भौंक रहे हैं मेरे को। So, you have to develop net empirical analysis. Functional to whom? Dysfunctional to whom? Non-functional to whom? Durga Puja celebrated here is non-functional to America. अमेरिका को क्या लेना देना इससे? जैन्स को क्या लेना देना? जैन्स को, बुद्धिस्ट को क्या लेना देना? Non-functional to them. Neither functional nor dysfunctional. So this is the kind of empirical analysis that we should be doing. So we should develop levels of analysis, system, groups, individuals. Anything can be subject to structural functionalism if it is patterned, regular, standardized. Okay. Acha, now third question. When you say net balance analysis, that means you have to see whether this is functional overall or dysfunctional overall. This is what is known as net balance analysis, but you can't do that. This is what Merton himself is saying. He knows this. Okay. He knows that we cannot say whether poverty is functional to the system, functional to some groups, dysfunctional to some other groups. Overall, it is functional or not functional or dysfunctional. We cannot say all these things. Therefore, what we at max can say is that this is functional to this group, this is dysfunctional to this group, this is functional to the other group. This may be functional to the system, but if its system consists of those groups only, then otherwise not. So it is completely empirical analysis that he's doing, not random. Okay. For example, poverty. Poverty is functional? Batao. Is poverty functional to the system? Is poverty functional to the system? Poverty is functional to the system. एक बात बताओ, if poverty was not functional तो poverty होता क्यों? poverty तो है। अगर poverty खराब होता, poverty हट चुका होता। poverty है यानी कहीं ना कहीं तो functional है किसी ना किसी के लिए। poverty is functional to the politicians. जब तक गरीब नहीं होंगे तब तक कोई गरीब योजना नहीं आएगी। इनको योजनाएं बनानी है, इसके लिए इनको गरीब चाहिए। गरीब फॉर्म्स वोट बैंक। गरीब, the poor people help the politicians to make speech. जो स्पीच में मैक्सिमम क्या होता है? विकास की बात की जाती है, किसके लिए? गरीबों के लिए। Poverty forms discourse of development. Poverty helps the future bureaucrats to develop India. If you find everyone in your district prosperous, affluent, तुम क्या करोगे फिर एज एन आईएएस ऑफिसर? तुमको खुद चाहिए गरीब लोग। सारे अमीर हो गए, सब बढ़िया चल रहा है, तो आईएएस ऑफिसर का काम क्या रह जाएगा? तुमको खुद चाहिए कोई दिक्कत रहे, ठीक है? तो पॉवर्टी इज फंक्शनल to the industrialist class as well, because poor people act as cheap labor. Industrial reserve army. Okay. So far I have told you poverty is functional to certain set of people, politicians, industrialists. On the other hand, poverty may as well be dysfunctional to the people who are poor. Of course, उनके लिए तो है ही dysfunctional poverty. But poverty can as well be dysfunctional for the whole society, because India is seen as poor country outside. So image of India goes down. But the same thing, if you look at India through industrialist perspective, now your image will be very high, because you do not see India as poor country, you see India as source of cheap labor. Image ऊपर चलेगी. So India will now attract foreign direct investment. I would want to go to India, establish my MNC there. So is there any objective reality? No. It's all about perspectives. सब डिपेंड करता है किस चश्मे से आप देख रहे हो दुनिया को. कोई रियलिटी आपको ऑब्जेक्टिव नहीं दिखेगी. ठीक है, इसलिए सोशियोलॉजी बना है, बताने के लिए कि we should not be adamant about things. There is another perspective lying out there. Okay. This is what Merton is telling us. Nationalism. Nationalism. Is nationalism functional? Nationalism is functional to the system. We have to talk like Merton. We have to talk like Merton. So we will say nationalism may be functional to one group. It is functional to minority. It is functional to minorities. Because what is the meaning of nationalism? That has to be understood first of all. How do you understand what is nationalism? If nationalism has become subjugated to the interest of one leader, this is fascist version of nationalism. If you do support him, then you are nationalist. If you do not, then you are not. Who are not supporting? One set of minority is not supporting, other set of majority supporting. So these are nationalists, these are not. So when you are saying nationalism is functional, okay, it may be functional to these. The same nationalism may not be functional to these. But if you see to the overall system, it can be dysfunctional as well, because it is only because of nationalism that nuclear arms race is happening. Arms race, nuclear arms race. कौन सबसे ज्यादा न्यूक्लियर वेपन बनाएगा? ये किसकी वजह से हो रहा है? नेशनलिज्म की वजह से. Rabindranath Tagore also said, nationalism is evil epidemic. Evil epidemic because it has taken lives more than any other pandemic or epidemic. World War, partition, वो सब. So nationalism is functional to some, dysfunctional to some others, and it is also subject to time and space. Depends. Okay, you cannot say nationalism is functional for the system, it brings us together, integrates us. ऐसा नहीं बोल सकते. ओके, क्रिकेट मैच अभी चल रहा है आजकल. क्रिकेट मैच इज फंक्शनल, डिसफंक्शनल, नॉन फंक्शनल, और व्हाट इट इज, और टू whom? यानी अब क्लैरिटी रखनी पड़ेगी थॉट की. फर्स्ट टेल मी, इज क्रिकेट मैच फंक्शनल टू सिस्टम? क्रिकेट मैच देखो, first of all let us understand, remember this, nothing is functional to system. जब when you are reading Merton, never say anything is functional to the system. Okay, because system, we cannot say anything is functional to system as a whole. We cannot say that. It is always functional to groups. Remember, Merton is a scholar of groups. Groups की study करता है वो. Reference group, relative, you feel deprived in comparison to a group. Okay. Cricket match is functional to बुकीज, जुआ खेलने वाले जो होते हैं बुकीज, पहले तो उनके लिए फंक्शनल है, उनको मजा आएगा, वो करोड़पति बनने वाले हैं, ठीक है। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल क्रिकेट मैच इज फंक्शनल टू बुकीज। सेकेंडली क्रिकेट मैच इज फंक्शनल टू टेलीविजन एजेंसीज, टीआरपीज बढ़ेगी उनकी, उस दिन पैसा आएगा। एडवर्टीजमेंट एजेंसीज, क्रिकेट मैच उनके लिए फंक्शनल है कि नहीं? राइट, एकदम नेट एम्पेरिकल एनालिसिस कर रहा हूं मैं यहां पर, ठीक है। क्रिकेट मैच इज ऑल्सो फंक्शनल टू द स्टूडेंट्स हु आर अपेयरिंग फॉर एग्जाम, थोड़ा रिलीफ मिल जाता है यार पढ़ाई से। बट क्रिकेट मैच is not functional to other sports like hockey, because when cricket is given so much limelight, when cricket is projected as the world's most important sports event happening in the century, once in a year, इस तरह का उसको ग्लोरी मिलता है जब, फिर डाउट होता है हॉकी सच में नेशनल स्पोर्ट्स है क्या? एंड व्हाट हैपेंस टू हॉकी प्लेयर्स, उनको लगता है हमें कोई पूछता नहीं, एडवर्टीजमेंट हमसे कोई करवाता नहीं किसी भी चीज की। क्रिकेट इज फंक्शनल टू ऑल दीज प्लेयर्स, डिसफंक्शनल टू अदर स्पोर्ट्स इवेंट्स, अदर स्पोर्टिंग इवेंट्स, एंड in fact dysfunctional to the very spirit of sportsmanship. Today you are not generating sportsmen, you are generating celebrities even in the cricket. क्रिकेट सेलिब्रिटीज को पैदा कर रहा है, बॉलीवुड से ज्यादा सेलिब्रिटीज अब क्रिकेट में है, उनसे ज्यादा एडवर्टीजमेंट ये लोग करते हैं। ये स्पोर्ट्समैन होते हैं क्या? स्पोर्ट्समैन होते हैं मिट्टी से भरे हुए, ये लोग तो पूरा जेल वेल लगा के नाइकी जॉर्डन घूम के एकदम प्लेन में इधर उधर, ये सेलिब्रिटीज होते हैं। ओके, तो दिस इज व्हाट मर्टन इज सेइंग कि ये करना चाहिए हमें। नाउ लास्ट टॉपिक, फर्स्ट आई टेक 2 minute break. Okay, 2 minute break and then we'll continue. The last topic is manifest and latent. Very simple topic, फटाफट हो जाएगा। Social distancing. Can we subject social distancing to structural function analysis? Yes. Why? Because it has now become regularized, patterned and standardized behavior. ऐसा नहीं कि एक दिन के लिए था सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग, चले गया, अब वो एक रेगुलर पैटर्न बन गया है। It has become a norm and therefore it can be subject to structural function analysis. Okay? But social distancing is, if I ask you, functional to whom, dysfunctional to whom, what will you say? First, social distancing is functional to whom? नहीं, रिच की बात छोड़ना है। सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग हम सबके लिए फंक्शनल है यार, कोरोना से मरना चाहता है क्या कोई? सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग इज फंक्शनल टू एवरीवन। कोई नहीं मरना चाहता कोरोना से, एवरीबडी वुड वांट टू प्रैक्टिस सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग, इट इज फंक्शनल टू एवरीवन, बट देन इट इज डिसफंक्शनल एज वेल टू फ्यू पीपल। सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग इज डिसफंक्शनल एज वेल टू फ्यू पीपल। सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग इज डिसफंक्शनल टू यूनिवर्सिटीज। यूनिवर्सिटीज बंद हो गई, ठीक है, द होल करिकुलम, academic curriculum had to change, इक्विलिब्रियम डिस्टर्ब हो गया पूरा एक एकेडमिक का। क्लास 12th के बोर्ड एक एग्जाम फर्स्ट टाइम इन द हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंडियन सोसाइटी हैड टू बी सस्पेंडेड, करिकुलम पूरा, नेशनल करिकुलम पूरा बदल गया। सोशल डिस्टेंसिंग वाज डिसफंक्शनल टू द स्टूडेंट्स हु वर अपेयरिंग फॉर पर्सनालिटी टेस्ट, सस्पेंड हो गया उनका मतलब कि पोस्टपोन हो गया। ओके, मे बी फंक्शनल एज वेल टू फ्यू कैंडिडेट्स विद इन दोज, उनको टाइम चाहिए था और खुश हो गए वो। इट कैन बी एनीथिंग, so you cannot be saying, when you say that it is functional only or when you say it is dysfunctional only, you are doing value judgment analysis. एंड व्हेन यू आर डूइंग वैल्यू जजमेंट एनालिसिस तो पॉजिटिविस्ट किस बात के हो गए तुम, ऑब्जेक्टिविटी किस बात की रहेगी, ये बोल रहा है मर्टन. ओके, so Merton is saying conduct net empirical analysis, see for whom this is functional, for whom this is dysfunctional. Okay, if it is functional to 90 people, dysfunctional to 10 people, and after seeing this you say it is functional to the system, then you are actually not doing just analysis, you are actually representing dominant values as the ideology which is functional. So again, you are not really doing value neutral analysis, you are representing values of dominant groups which are major in numbers. So we cannot say net में ultimately किसका हुआ, इसलिए बस इतना ही बोलो function to this, dysfunction to this. You cannot say function to the system because nothing is functional to the system. Okay. This is what you have to think like. Okay. Now, last, manifest and latent. Very easy analysis. Okay. Manifest means what is visible is manifest. Okay. But what is not visible is latent. Manifest means visible. Latent means hidden. It is not visible. Right? When I asked you, cricket is functional to whom? Everything was visible, right? It is functional to bookies, functional to TRPs. सब में बोला तुमने हाँ. But जब मैंने बोला dysfunctional to hockey players, was it really visible to you? ना. बोला फिर लगा अरे हाँ, यानी वो छुपा हुआ था नीचे. The task of sociologist is to reveal everything that is hidden. This is what Merton says. जो चीज छुपी हुई है उसको निकाल दो ऊपर. This is the task of sociologist. और ये आसान काम नहीं है. This is not an easy job. Okay. Because it requires change in thinking. Okay. And this is one task that no other person does. No, neither political scientist, nor anthropologist, nor psychologist, nor philosopher. They do not reveal anything hidden to us. Okay, they only tell us something which is their own concept, they explain to us. But what is hidden amongst us only, हम में ही जो छुपा हुआ है वो कोई नहीं निकालता. ये सिर्फ सोशियोलॉजी करेगा. ये मर्टन बोलता है द टास्क ऑफ सोशियोलॉजी, द सब्जेक्ट मैटर ऑफ सोशियोलॉजी वुड बी द स्टडी ऑफ लैटेंट. This is what Merton says. The subject matter of sociology would be the study of latent. Okay. According to Max Weber, subject matter of sociology is study of social action. According to Durkheim, study of subject matter is study of social fact. Marx, class struggle. Okay. Parsons, social system. And Merton, latent. Now you see what Merton is doing. Merton has realized one thing which is common in Marx, Weber, Durkheim and Parsons. चारों में एक चीज common है. One thing is very much common in all the four, which those four do not really know. उन चारों को भी नहीं पता. Merton को पता चल गया. Merton was actually trying to find the spirit of sociology, not spirit of capitalism. So he was actually looking for spirit of sociology. Where is the spirit of sociology? And he found in the writings of all these four the spirit of sociology, which we call, which C. Wright Mills called as sociological imagination, was visible in all those. When Weber says Protestant ethics led to the rise of capitalism, it was hidden. What was manifest? People working was manifest, visible. People are working. What was hidden? The meanings that they had attached to the work. That work was not just work. Work was not an end in itself. Work was a means to attain salvation. So work was a spiritual experience. This is hidden. And Max Weber studied hidden things, meanings, motivations. ये कहां से सीखा मर्टन ने? मैक्स वेबर से. He learned this art from Max Weber. But Max Weber never made it explicit. इसने explicit कर दिया. Okay. When you look into Sigmund Freud is also studying something that is hidden. And what is hidden? Unconscious mind is hidden. And he wants to study that hidden thing only. And Mutton is actually trying to find out the common thing across all these people. When Durkheim says, religion integrates us. Okay. Religion brings cohesion. Collective effervescence is the result of gathering. These are hidden things. These are not manifest. ये आपको दिखता नहीं है. ये hidden है. ये बाद में पता चलता है, अच्छा हाँ, ये भी तो है. Okay. When music concert becomes religion, when you read Durkheim, this is hidden thing that you never knew. And you then came to know, अच्छा हाँ, ऐसे भी देख सकते हैं. So Merton is actually trying to tell you that whatever we have learned so far was nothing but study of hidden. And Pierre Bourdieu, a French sociologist, says sociology is science insofar it is concerned with the study of hidden. जब तक कि वो reveal कर रहा है, as long as sociology is revealing something that is hidden, it is science. Because science भी तो यही करता है. Science reveals everything that is hidden. Warping of space and time was hidden. It was there before us, but we could not see. Einstein could see it. It was hidden. उसने निकाल दिया. क्या बात है मर्टन की. ठीक है. Max Weber said, capitalism was unintended consequence of Protestant ethics. Unintended था वो. Intentionally कभी नहीं उन्होंने ऐसा किया था कि कैपिटलिज्म को डेवलप करेंगे हम ये वर्क कर करके. Unintentionally डेवलप हो गया. Hidden. उनको भी नहीं पता चला. Now, manifest. Manifest, according to Merton, is simply anything that is anticipated. जिसको आप anticipate कर सकते हो. Anticipated consequences is known as manifest function of that thing. Manifest function of anything is something that you can anticipate. मैं तुमसे पूछूंगा, तुम बोल दोगे वो anticipated है यानी. बट जब मैं पूछूंगा latent बताओ, तुम बोल नहीं पाओगे. देखना भी मैं बताता हूं तुम्हें. फिर जब मैं बताऊंगा अरे हाँ, यानी वो हिडन था, वो रिवील कर दिया मर्टन ने. सिर्फ मर्टन नहीं, आजकल के सोशियोलॉजिस्ट यही करते हैं. ओके, ऑल द सोशियोलॉजिस्ट इन फैक्ट डील विद रिवीलिंग समथिंग दैट इज हिडन. तभी बोला जाता है. एंड यहां पे डिफरेंस हमें दिख गया है सीधा सीधा. इस चीज में अभी बताता हूं. लेटेंट फंक्शन, anything that is not anticipated, unanticipated, जो सोचा नहीं था. Okay. Now, remember one thing. I have written latent function is unanticipated. Okay. But remember, Unanticipated, but remember, a latent function is only one form of the unanticipated. One form. There are other forms as well of the unanticipated. What are the other forms? Latent function I have written. Second is dysfunction. And third is non-function. These three together form unanticipated consequence. Okay? Anticipated consequence, manifest. Unanticipated consequence, latent function, dysfunction, non-function. Now see, example. Let me talk about anything. Anything that is standardized, patterned, and regular. For example, in your life, in the life of students, there is one thing which is standardized, regular, and patterned. That is examination. तो चलो एग्जामिनेशन का एनालिसिस करते हैं मैनिफेस्ट और लेटेंट लगाकर, फिर देखो क्या निकलता है. Examination. Now tell me, what is the manifest function of examination? बताओ. Manifest means anticipated. Why examinations are conducted? What is the anticipated consequence? Purpose क्या होता है examination का? Why examinations are conducted? To test knowledge. Yes, it is anticipated, right? Test of knowledge. Or to test knowledge. What else? To check the level of knowledge हो गया. अरे टू इम्पार्ट स्किल्स और नॉट. स्किल्स भी तो देंगे, वो तुमको प्रोडक्टिव बनाएंगे. टेस्ट दे दे के ही तुम पढ़ोगे और अच्छे प्रोडक्टिव बनोगे. टू इम्पार्ट स्किल्स और टू फाइंड द बेस्ट वन आउट ऑफ द गिवन लॉट. ये भी तो एंटिसिपेटेड है. टू फाइंड द बेस्ट वन आउट ऑफ द गिवन वन. टू रिलीज द मेरिट लिस्ट. टू फाइंड द मेरिटोरियस कैंडिडेट्स. और जॉब्स. जॉब्स भी बोल लेते हैं चलो. टू गिव जॉब्स. देखो अब मान गए ना, इसके आगे नहीं सोच पा रहे. मान गए ना, ये सब एंटिसिपेटेड है. इसका मतलब कंपटीशन में डाल लो, फोर्थ में डाल लो उसको. ये सब एंटिसिपेटेड थिंग है, विच मीन्स कॉमन सेंस है. मैनिफेस्ट, सी द डिफरेंस बिटवीन मैनिफेस्ट एंड लेटेंट इज कॉमन सेंस वर्सेस सोशियोलॉजी. तो मैनिफेस्ट में जो भी आएगा सब कॉमन सेंस. जो भी तुम्हें लगता है वो सब डाल दो, वो सब कॉमन सेंस ही होएगा. ठीक है. अब लेटेंट देखते हैं. क्या है लेटेंट? प्रिपेयर फॉर फैक्ट्री. ये भी डाल दो भाई. जॉब्स की जब मैं बात कर रहा हूं तो क्या है? प्रिपरेशन फॉर फैक्ट्री. लिखा है ना जॉब्स. वो मैनिफेस्ट ही तो हुआ. डिग्री डाल लो. ये सब एंटिसिपेटेड ही तो है. इसमें कुछ हिडन तो है नहीं. हो गया. अब देखो लेटेंट. डू यू नो रॉबर्ट मर्टन, the full name, do you know the full name of Robert Merton? His full name is Robert King Merton. Do you know why we have King in the name of Robert Merton? ये किसी को पता है? बीए वाले, बीए ऑनर जो कर चुके हैं, उनको ये पता है? वाई? हाँ, विजय वर्मा, बिल्कुल सही. Robert Merton was street magician before he became sociologist. Magician क्या करते हैं? They reveal you something hidden. अरे ऐसे कैसे? वो दिख रहा है अब इसके इस एनालिसिस में. तभी these are classical people. इनकी हिस्ट्री, बायोग्राफी ऐसी ऐसी इतनी यूनिक है. He has actually turned sociology into art of magic. Okay. कि कैसे हम दूसरों को बता सकते हैं जो हिडन है. Why? Because he is concerned about hidden things, because those hidden things will actually help people to formulate right policies, to fix the issues, जिसको पैथोलॉजी बोलता है डरखाई. ठीक है. He was magician. And magician है तो king क्यों? क्योंकि magician used to wear this king वाला crown. Magician always had this king crown and black coat with long stick. Okay, so that is why king जो नाम है उसके साथ रह गया हमेशा के लिए. Okay. Latent function of examination. It converts social privilege into merit. अभी बताता हूं कैसे. ये हिडन था, ये तुमने बताया नहीं. It converts socio-economic privilege. क्या बात है मर्टन की. Into merit. ये एग्जामिनेशन एक ऐसा मशीन है जिसमें आप अपनी प्रिविलेज डालो, बाहर मेरिट के साथ निकलोगे. जिसके पास वो प्रिविलेज नहीं है वो मेरिटोरियस होके निकलेगा ही नहीं. और हमें लगेगा कि मेरिटोरियस है ये सिस्टम. क्या जादू दिखाया उसने? You see, in higher education or in any form of education, if you see, you will see dominance of one specific section in society. That is why you would see missing people in those universities or those institutions. For example, you would not see SCs, STs in IIMs or IITs. Even faculty, at the level of faculty, there is no SC, ST faculty. Okay. You would not see even at the level of IIT. Okay. Very few people. Only those people who had the privilege, that is upper caste or upper class, they converted their privilege into merit, became IITian. The other who did not have privilege, caste based or class based, could not become IITian. And then system is presented as meritorious. We start believing it is based on merit, but is it really based only on merit? Merton is revealing something. It is equally based on privileges, socio-economic. And merit disguises, makes us believe this system is running on efficiency universal standards, when it in reality is not. Latent function. Second, it prepares marriage market. मैरिज मार्केट. जिसने एग्जाम निकाल दिया उसका न्यूज़पेपर में नाम, शादी के ऑफर अगले दिन. मार्केट की बनी कि नहीं बताओ. अभी तुमको देखो ऐसा है, ये तो हो रहा है, ये तो हो रहा है. जो हो रहा है वो वही बता रहा है. वो तुमने नहीं बोला बट तुमको पता है हाँ हो रहा है, तभी अग्री भी कर रहे हो. इसलिए वो हिडन है. जैसे यू क्लियर एग्जाम, ठीक है, लेट मी टॉक अबाउट आईएएस का एग्जाम, ठीक है, मैरिज का मार्केट बन जाता है, सीधी सी बात है। What else is examination doing? बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले कर रहा है एग्जामिनेशन, एक बहुत ही इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले। ओके, अभी आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट एग्जामिनेशन एज जनरल थिंग, ग्रेजुअली आई स्टार्ट टॉकिंग अबाउट स्पेसिफिक एग्जाम्स। अभी मैं ग्रेजुअली एक यूनिवर्सल एक लेवल पर देखना चाहता हूँ, जनरल लेवल पर एग्जामिनेशन एज एन इंस्टीट्यूशन, नॉट एग्जामिनेशन ऑफ DU, JNU, IIT, IIM, एक जनरल लेवल पे एग्जामिनेशन हाइड्स अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट। क्या बात है, अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट को छुपा देता है, कर्टन डाल देता है अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट पे। वाई? मेरा बेटा पढ़ाई कर रहा है, मेरा बेटा, मेरी बेटी पढ़ रही है, ये अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट को छुपा दिया, एग्जामिनेशन तैयारी चल रही है, छुपा दिया, अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट के फिगर्स बढ़ने नहीं दिए एग्जामिनेशन नाम के इंस्टीट्यूशन ने। ये देख रहे हो क्या लेवल करता है मर्टन, बात ही अलग है इस आदमी की। इट हाइड्स अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट। डिवाइड्स पीपल, लिटरेट इलिटरेट, हाँ बोल सकते हैं, बट ये थोड़ा ना एंटिसिपेटेड टाइप का है। एंटिसिपेटेड मतलब यस, आई मीन आई कैन थिंक ऑन दीज लाइंस। ये जो जिसे हिडन कहते हैं एकदम, वो नहीं है, ये वो वाला नहीं है। अच्छा, ये भी एक चीज है, ये मैनिफेस्ट लेटेंट कैसे जज करेंगे भाई? क्या पता व्हाट इज हिडन टू यू मे नॉट बी हिडन टू समवन एल्स, क्या पता उसको मालूम था ये, वो बोलेगा मैंने तो जादू देख रखा है पहले, ये जादू मैंने देख चुका हूं, ठीक है, फिर उसकी बात ही नहीं करे, तुम देख चुके हो, निकलो, पैसे वापस नहीं मिलेंगे। देख लिए तो कोई बात नहीं, पैसे वापस नहीं मिलेंगे, ठीक है, पर बात यहां तुम्हारी है ही नहीं, बात यहां मेजॉरिटी की है। प्रमोट सोशल इविल, करप्शन, डाउरी सिस्टम, हाँ बिल्कुल कह सकते हैं। जब मैरिज मार्केट की बात आ गई तो फिर डाउरी आ ही जाता है, ठीक है, वो इनफैक्ट मैरिज का लेटेंट पार्ट है डाउरी, ओके, जो कि एंटिसिपेटेड भी होता है, कुछ के लिए हिडन हो, ठीक है। ये क्रिटिसिज्म भी बन जाता है मॉर्टन का। देयर इज वन स्कॉलर कॉलिन कैंपबेल, जिसने क्रिटिसाइज किया सिर्फ इसी लाइन पे, कि थोड़ा वेग हो जाता है। वैसे बात सही कर रहे हैं, मॉर्टन इज सेइंग वेरी राइट थिंग, बट समटाइम्स इट बिकम्स क्लियर because latent is something that is very subjective. It may not be so latent to someone else, it may be very anticipated thing, but largely बड़ा अच्छा कर रहा है मॉर्टन। एग्जामिनेशन प्रमोट बिकॉज बिजनेस ऑफ स्टूडेंट फियर, यस ये कह सकते हैं लेटेंट में। इट मेक्स अ बिजनेस आउट ऑफ फियर ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स एंड प्रोलिफरेट्स कोचिंग सेंटर्स। अभी जो कोचिंग सेंटर्स खुली हैं दुनिया में, सिर्फ एग्जामिनेशन की वजह से है। लेटेंट, हिडन, ये अच्छा बोला तुमने, ठीक है। चलो, तो ऐसे हमको करना है हर एक चीज के साथ, इस तरह का एनालिसिस हमको करना है विद एवरीथिंग, ओके। नाउ रिमेंबर वन थिंग, when you are talking about unanticipated consequence, when you are talking about unanticipated consequence, जो सोचा नहीं था, it is at 3 levels, okay, latent function, जो सोचा नहीं था, हिडन फंक्शन, देन डिसफंक्शन एज वेल, ये भी करना है हमको. Non-function is easy. This is something Merton does not give so much importance to. Non-function is not so much significant to Merton, but these two are definitely significant to Merton. Okay. Dysfunction. Examination, as you know, have manifest function. You know this. Latent function, I told you, it is also having dysfunctional role. Examination is dysfunctional to whom? Dysfunctional to whom? नहीं 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 नहीं, ये नहीं. Dysfunctional to nepotism. Dysfunctional to poor people, less means. हाँ बिल्कुल सही जा रहे हो नूतन. अरे एक बात बताओ, deviance which we studied was the unintended consequence of people not having legitimate means or good grades to achieve the goals, and that is why it is dysfunction. Deviance, what we read, was nothing but dysfunction of examination only. बेटा चोरी क्यों करी? गुंडे बने हो तुम, माँ बाप ने पढ़ाई लिखाई नहीं. The rise of criminality is a dysfunction of examination. In the sense, dysfunction in the sense, this system is one. Examination in itself is promoting criminality. Because the right way to achieve success is only through education. If you do not have education, if you do not have legitimate means, then whatever you are doing would be illegal. ये होता है. If that does not fall under the ambit of law, okay, if that is not achieved through legitimate means, which means education, hard work, all those things, then it is illegal. And therefore, criminal world is dysfunctional aspect coming out of examination only. As you know, that anomie is rooted in social structure. Rooted in social structure. So if there was no examination, there would have been no criminality. If there was no education, no criminality would have been there. Okay. But some people could get, some other could not get, but they still want to get. If not by this method, some other method, and that will be criminal. तो जो फेल हो गए वो ऐसा आसानी से तो निकल जाएंगे क्या? वो कुछ बड़ा करेंगे फिर अब जिंदगी में, अखबार में ही आएंगे सीधा. ठीक है. Dysfunction. This is how you have to do manifest latent analysis. Okay. So yes, a digital divide also is a dysfunction. Okay. Now you will deal with these things easily. इसमें मेरे बताने वाला कुछ है नहीं. ठीक है, ये सब पढ़ लोगे तुम नोट्स में. मेरे बताने वाला काम खत्म हो गया. So I'm dealing with last topic and then I'm finishing. Merton. Tomorrow we'll start with new unit with 15-minute discussion on Mead. रोट लर्निंग को प्रिवेंट तो नहीं करता, ये तो ठीक है, ये थोड़ा सब्जेक्टिव है. It prevents रोट लर्निंग. रोट लर्नर ही सक्सेसफुल ज्यादातर रहते हैं वैसे देखा जाए तो. ठीक है. ये डिसफंक्शन है, बट दिस इज डिसफंक्शन. इट एक्चुअली एनकरेज रोट लर्निंग, प्रिवेंट्स नहीं, encourage rote learning. So you have people who are not critical thinkers. You have people who are rote learners. Okay. तो ये थोड़ा सा वो हो जाता है डिसफंक्शन. ओके. इनफैक्ट दिस इज व्हाट गांधी आल्सो सेड. गांधी ने भी यही बोला था, टैगोर ने भी यही बोला था इन चीजों के ऊपर. नाउ it also established authority relation between the people who conducted exam and the people who gave exam. This is latent function but could be dysfunctional to the student if the authority becomes, so coercive on the student. ऐसे हमने देखना है चीजों को. Now last part is critique to Merton's deviance. या फिर कल करें इसको ऑलरेडी. कल ही करते हैं, ठीक है. चलो, तो टुमारो वी विल बिगिन विद religion. The next topic will be religion.